if you put your mind to it and you stick with it and you're relentless with it, anyone can get to the top, in my opinion.
One house doesn't fit for everyone, and I think if you push a bunch of different houses on them just because you want to get a sale done, you're actually hurting yourself more.
The biggest payoff in this business comes from being genuine and just being yourself.
It was like 8:30 p.m. and he texted me like, everything good? And I was like, no. And I called him and he answered. I swear he was in the Sahara tent at Coachella.
Hello and welcome to a very, very special episode of Rise Above the Ranks, presented by Estate Media. This is going to be what we hope is going to continue to be an ongoing series of under 30 roundtables to get to know the next generation of up-and-coming realtors and other real estate professionals. And we're now doing this in person in the studio in Los Angeles, but we're very excited about this. And we've got 4 rock stars here today. I want to jump right into it because we are limited, because they're all very, very busy. First and foremost, as you all know, we're extremely excited. We want to go around the room, introduce each of you to the audience, get to know a little bit more about you. Why don't each of you just quickly introduce yourselves, starting with Kris. It's Chris's birthday. Chris is newly single.
Happy
We got the
birthday.
birthday.
Is that it?
I'm
Okay.
claiming to the birthday.
Fine. Happy birthday, Chris.
And to the single.
And to the single.
That's
Thank
fine.
you, Alexa. Okay, so Kris, tell us a little bit about yourself so the audience know who we're talking
Sure,
to.
yeah. So Kris Everett, obviously, born in Reykjavik, Iceland, originally. Moved to England when I was very young. Grew up there and moved here in 2019. Met James in 2020. And then pretty much harassed him for a year until he finally allowed me to come work for him. And I've been working for him ever since, and very happy here. And just looking forward to everything that's to come.
Amen. What he fails to mention is he came straight out of a food truck in Long Beach with the desire to be successful in this industry and closed $100 million worth of business in 2022. 2022. So I think that definitely deserves a round of applause. If you put your mind to something, if you're hungry enough and you want it enough, you'll get it. Okay, moving on. We've got 2 sisters here, the Tavangarian sisters, who have come up so incredibly well in this industry. We can't wait to have you on the podcast and hear more about you, starting with you, Emila.
Hi, I'm Emila Tavangarian. I'm 26 years old. I've been in real estate for about 4 years now. Shana and I have been partners for almost 2 years. And yeah, I grew up in Los Angeles. I've always been passionate about real estate and development, and I'm looking forward to what's to come.
Hey.
Welcome.
And I'm Shana Tavangarian. I'm 30 years old. Emila's my sister. I was born and raised here in Los Angeles. Kind of started with a event hospitality background, then commercial real estate, and then beginning of 2021, I got into residential, became obsessed, and now here we are.
I love it. These 2 girls are absolute killers in our industry. Watch out for these 2. You hear their names if you're in LA almost every day, and it's great. We just did a $16 million deal with them. They're a joy and a delight to work with, and we're really, really happy to have you on the podcast.
We're excited to be here.
Yeah.
Alexa Kort, another absolute killer. We have the sickest panel today. Alexa is an absolute hustler in this industry, closing deals left, right, and center. And we'd love to hear a little bit more about you.
Yeah, Alexa Kort, born and raised in LA as well. With them, actually.
Yeah.
We grew up
really?
together.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
We went to high school together.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
small world.
I did not know that.
And we all kind of started at the same time.
Yeah.
Similar to Shana, I started completely out of real estate. I worked in tech for 4 years. Not a food truck.
No.
Yeah. Tech still.
Same animal.
Yeah,
Same
same
trucks
animal,
will be
sure.
run by tech. So.
Exactly.
All robots.
Hmm.
But I come from a family of real estate and found myself doing it as a hobby. And then right around the same time, we decided we ran into each other. And
She was
both-
mentoring me. When
Yeah.
What? I
yeah,
didn't know
she was
any
my
of
like
this.
second person I ever had lunch with in real estate.
Yeah. And then I kind of just fell in love with it and found a way to monetize my hobby, which is the dream, right?
Monetize the hobby.
I
like
love
that.
that.
That's
I
a
know,
that's a
yeah.
good saying. I like that
Yeah.
one.
It's good.
Just write that down.
We're all
I am
copying
just
you.
monetizing my hobby. Ladies and gentlemen, monetize your hobby.
Well, I feel very old right now, to be honest with you. I'm always the oldest in the room.
Do you notice I didn't say my age?
Yes, I
They
did.
all said their age.
Well, we know you're under 30.
I am under 30, but I don't. We can leave it at that.
Well, how much under 30 now you're bringing
2
up?
years now.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm.
When you're
we can
under
talk about my
30,
age.
the worst case scenario is you're 30. That's still young, so you're good.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry about it. But welcome, guys.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. There's so much to cover and not really enough time. Let's start with the sisters. So we always want to know, like, what
The
the
sisters.
sisters,
I like
Shana and
that.
Emila. So you guys, I want to know from each of you what motivated you to get into real estate. We have obviously known your father for many years, Ardi, who is a prolific LA real estate developer, if I may say, probably the best in this entire city. So you had some pretty big shoes to fill, but what was it like growing up in a household where your dad's a big developer? And was that what really motivated you both to get into the industry?
Well, first off, none of us got his genes for his
Architecture,
development,
design.
architecture, so we had to find something else to do. But I think, at least for me, we did grow up around that. We were at job sites all the time, so that was always really interesting to us. I actually think it steered me away originally from wanting to do real estate because I felt like the whole nepotism situation and all of that. So I went into commercial real estate saying I'm going to start a different path over here. And I wasn't really passionate about it. And then during COVID, commercial was doing really bad. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to give it a go. I'm going to not work with anyone related to my dad, do my own thing. And we met Rainey and Brandon Williams, who at the time were starting their new brokerage. And I think for them originally, I mean, Brandon admits it all the time, it was nepotism why they originally hired us.
Yeah.
and we all worked together. And then I started doing my own deals. She was interning at the time for
Yeah.
Rainey and Brandon.
I was interning for Rainey, which was very fun and interesting. And I just saw her and she was a complete boss and she just like owned it. And I was at USC and I was in my senior year of college. So then I was like, what am I going to do? And then honestly, it was peak of COVID and I graduated like early and then we just kind of were stuck at home. We were all living at home. And so my dad was like, you might as well just do it. Like you love it. And I just like loved helping people, honestly, and
That's
just finding them
unreal.
homes. It was so fun.
But we
And how did you guys come together?
Yeah.
came together.
I was Rainey and Brandon's assistant for 2 years, and then it got to the point where we were kind of overlapping, and we just had a lot of
we had a lot of shared clients, and then
Yeah.
we were like, and I think at the time we were caravanning a lot together, and then people kept saying like, "Oh, this would be so
Why don't you
cute.
just work together?"
You guys should work together." And we gave it a go.
I
We
love
we
it.
get in our little fights here and there as sisters, but at the end of
Is
the
that
day,
a daily
we
thing,
love
weekly,
it.
hourly, monthly?
It's a weekly
Weekly.
thing.
But you both are killing it, so congratulations.
At least it's not a daily thing.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
you,
true, but you know what? So many people, I feel like they can't move into an industry because their dad's in it, or like they're following in their dad's footsteps. But you guys have completely become these two independent women that are a team that everybody knows. And whenever we have a pocket, an off-market property, it's always like, send it to you girls, send it to you. I always say to
Yeah.
Kris, because I know you guys have a
Yeah.
WhatsApp thread,
Yeah.
like send it to all the young people, because
He does,
you
yeah.
guys are
Rising
all
stars.
rising
Yeah.
stars. That's
Can we be part of that
Yes.
WhatsApp
No,
thread?
you're too-
Yeah.
It's really like
No.
age
Too
specific.
old, guys.
It's like the
Yes.
reverse of getting into a
Yes.
nightclub.
Yeah.
Like, I was always too young, now I'm too old, right?
Yes, we're too fucking old to be in the WhatsApp thread.
Is there really a WhatsApp thread for young?
There's literally a WhatsApp.
rising
But how old do you have
stars,
to
yeah.
be?
How old do you have to be?
Under
Or how
30.
young do you have to
Probably
be?
like 35, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think there's an age limit.
It's just a
getting
grey.
there.
If you have grey hair, you're You're not allowed in the WhatsApp thread if you have no
I
gray
feel
hair.
like we all start around the same time who's in the WhatsApp thread.
Yeah.
Yeah, like COVID.
Is
I
Jacob
bet.
Jacob
You're
Green
all
on it
killing
as
it.
well?
He is, yes. Yeah.
Well, you're all killing it. Alexa, what motivated you? You've got a dad that's in the real estate
Yeah.
industry, but you've become this independent killer. You're closing 5, 10, 15, $20 million deals left and right.
And our new listing.
And our newest listing for
For
50
50.
million.
That's huge.
So what was your motivation to get into the industry? What gets you excited here?
I kind of hit a crossroads of not knowing what I wanted to do with my life, which I think is a very common crossroads in your early 20s. I spent almost 4 years in tech, didn't feel a fit. I met amazing people. I learned how to network and I learned how to sell, which I think is beneficial for our career and really any career, and how to work with people. COVID hit and I had no idea what to do. And I had my license. My dad made me get it when I was 18 because he said it's always a good thing to have, whether you go into real estate or not. You can do your own deals. You'll buy property at some point in your life. And so I've always had it, and I would do deals on the side for friends. I'd, as a hobby, help them out, as I said, show them places. And then during quarantine, I was looking for a place for myself. And one of the properties I looked at was listed by Josh Flagg, our lovely mutual friend. And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I think probably, I don't want to admit it, but probably because of some form of nepotism, Josh asked me if I wanted to follow him and shadow him. And we pretty much spent all of quarantine walking the flats, just the two of us.
God, you must have experienced some weird shit.
Oh, I
did. Walking anywhere with flags, weird.
It was
Let
really
alone
fun.
in quarantine.
Yeah. And we spent like a couple hours, a few days a week when nothing was happening, and we would just walk the flats and he would say, she lived there and he lived there and that's who lived there and they got divorced and that person died. And I started to learn everything. And then I slowly started, and I remember at the beginning I said, I'm going to give it 6 months and I'm going to see what it's like, see how I feel. And I started doing leases, which I think is kind of where everyone really starts. Not everyone, but I think it's a good place to start.
For sure.
And I started and I did some leases and I said, I'm going to readdress it in 6 months. And then I was doing small sales. We did one of my first deals together, the one on Franklin that was one of my first
Wow,
deals.
I did not realize that.
Yeah.
Was that Mark Levine's?
I honestly don't
No.
know.
James like,
was
what
that?
deal?
Which deal? Wasn't me.
Yes, it was.
It really was?
Yeah.
On Franklin?
Yeah, it was on Franklin.
Hey.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be a part of that.
Maybe it was Sam's lease on Sam's.
No.
No, it was
One
sale.
just sold.
It was a
Oh, it was a
sale.
sale.
On Franklin?
Yeah.
All right, we will come back to you on
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
But yeah, and then I think, again, I readdressed it after 6 months. And then a year later, I had done like 50 million within my first year. And then I kind of realized I felt where I was exactly where I wanted to be.
I love that.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
do. 50 million in your first year.
Yeah,
I feel like
crazy.
25.
That's
When you
insane.
do that.
Yeah, but
That's
you had that
insane.
experience and that hustle and you had the tech background, but you obviously grew up in a household, all three of you, where selling was a thing. And you kind of probably already had that instilled inside of you without even realizing it. And now here you are, a staple in the business. Kris, what about you, mate?
Sure. So I actually went into law in England.
Did you?
I did, yeah. So I went into law, property law though. So I always enjoyed real estate or some aspect of it. When I moved here in 2019, crossroads, as you were saying, I had no idea what I was going to do or where I was going to go. I then heard James on a podcast. It's actually a crazy story. Actually, it's pretty nuts, and it was called like the world's greatest agent with Kev down in the OC, because I was living in Long Beach at the time, and I was also working on a food truck for cash because I didn't have a work permit. Actually, I probably shouldn't say that on the podcast.
Delete.
And I was waiting for all my like immigration paperwork. I couldn't drive, couldn't leave the country, and I was like, I just basically walked into restaurants and asked if I could like wash dishes or work behind the bar. Walked onto a food truck and then they said, have you fried chicken before? I was like, yep. And they were like, can you start tomorrow? I was like, yep. First day, put the chicken in the fryer, pull it up. It's completely fucked. And I remember turning around and looking at the owner, and she had a smirk on her face, and she was like, "You never fried chicken before, have you?" And I was like, "No, but I'm a quick learner. I swear it will be fine." So
and
anyway,
I'm really good looking, so please don't fire me.
Yeah, exactly.
I will learn to fry this chicken.
Exactly. So I was working on the food truck, figuring out what I want to do. Hear James on a podcast. I'm like, oh, that guy's English. He's got an English accent. And my friend in the car was like, yes, James Harris. He's a killer, like top agent, blah, blah, blah. And something in me was like, I should just reach out to him. So I sent him this email with the title that sounds like a dating website or something, because it was like, I think I literally said like young Brit in LA seeking.
No wonder he replied so quickly.
No wonder I was getting hit on.
I said like young Brit in LA seeking real estate experience or something like that. It's like those weird spam emails you get, you know? And I was like, look, I heard your podcast, because he explained his story about moving here with nothing and building this empire. And so I told him I found it inspiring, and I'd love to meet him for a coffee or come work for you for free. Like, I'll get your dry cleaning, your coffee, like whatever. I just want to like meet you and get my foot in the door. And didn't think he was going to respond.
It was the dry cleaning part.
You're like, sure.
And he responded and was like, call me tomorrow. And then I called him, didn't answer, of course. And
he's pretty good at answering.
I think I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
Didn't answer. I think it took me about a week to get him on the phone.
It was the Long Beach area code.
Yeah, probably. Get him on the phone, and then we're talking, and I think I came up and then met you in the office, and you took me around for a day, and then it was the moment, the house on Sunset, what was it, Sunset Heights? The one for 15 million.
Yeah.
And I walked in, and he was like, can you help set up the house? I walked in the house, and I was like, right. I was like, this is what I fucking want to do. I was like, this is it. This is me. I'm in this. And then James told me, sorry, we can't help you. And I went back on the food truck for like 6 months, got my license, called him immediately when I got my license. And then I started working like 2 weeks after that. With James.
Wow.
That's amazing.
So,
What a cool story.
yeah.
Unbelievable. And look, is he not like, he's a killer?
You have literally come from like, because you started as Alex's assistant, right?
Correct, yeah.
And then obviously Alex moved on, you stepped up, and you probably sell more than Alex now. So
Not probably.
just saying. Do you know what I mean? Like, not in a bad way to him, it's just more in a good way to you.
Yeah.
Like you've come from strength to strength. So.
Yeah, I think
sure.
the takeaway for me from that is, if you have your eye on something and you're eager to achieve it, if you put your mind to it and you stick with it and you're relentless with it, anyone can get to the top, in my opinion. It's like anyone that has that work ethic, we always say it, as long as you give it 110%, you sleep it, breathe it, live it, and really get into it, there's no reason that each and every one of you can't get to the top, as long as you're prepared to follow those that have already achieved in that industry and have shown you what works. But if you actually do it, you'll become successful. And that's very apparent right here. Okay, so Alexa, over to you. What's been the biggest surprise or the biggest lesson that you've learned so far in your career?
Honestly, how to work with people. I feel like more often than not, my job is being a therapist.
Yes.
And I never realized when I started working in real estate that would be such a big part of it. But it is such an emotional decision.
It really is.
I mean, it is your clients, most people's biggest asset that they own. And it's a big deal. It's a lot of money for the person who, for your clients. And I think that it's emotional for sellers selling a home that has so many memories in it that they're so deeply connected to, that maybe they raise their children in or whatever it might be, or buying, and I didn't realize. I knew that I loved working with people. And I think when I started in real estate early on, that's what worked for me right away. But I just didn't realize how emotionally connected I would be to all of my clients, and how the things that seem so small and minute actually make the biggest difference at the end of the day in the deals.
So being a therapist, listening to our
Being a
clients.
babysitter.
Right,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
babysitter.
Yeah.
But it is true. I feel like in our industry, listening, which is not something I'm that great at, to be fair.
I've never done it in my life. I work with developers.
Right, but listening is
I'm
so
kidding.
important.
No, I get it. Yeah.
Listening is such a key to our success, because
It
unless you listen and actually take in the information that we're getting, our clients are telling us what they want,
Exactly.
what they have, what they don't want. Unless you're actually switched on and listening, how can you learn, A,
Yeah.
and B, actually find them the right property? Because this business is all about information.
Yeah.
And so you have to listen to what people
Yeah.
are telling you. So I think that's
You also have to understand your client. I
Correct.
think when you get to know someone, you get to feel their energy. Not one house doesn't fit for everyone. And I think if you push a bunch of different houses on them just because you want to get a sale done, you're actually hurting yourself more.
Sure.
If you go to a house and you really feel like this house is not the right fit for your client, don't push it on them.
Yep.
Say to them honestly, this doesn't feel like it's going to work
I
for
love
you.
that.
Yeah.
The power of
Yeah.
saying no
Yeah.
is so huge in our industry, because once you've been honest and you've actually told someone, no, this doesn't make sense, and here's why, you've earned their trust. And this business is all about trust.
Yeah,
Would you sell it to your mother, your brother, your sister, or your best friend? If the answer's no, tell that to your client, because
Yeah.
it will go a long way. Thank you. Shana, for you, biggest surprise or lesson since you got into the industry?
I think biggest surprise. I think I went into this from commercial, where you work 9 to 5, you're done, and then you do not check your emails over the weekend, and people don't respond to, like, have you guys tried calling LoopNet, whatever?
Nope.
Agents do not answer their phone.
They do not.
And I think going into residential, I was like, it'll be the same. And my first deal was for one of my best friends, I was lucky enough to have her trust. She was like, oh, I want to see this home. I was like, well, they're not going to answer like on a Saturday. And I started call, and they're like, do you want to go see it right now and do everything? So we went, and the whole process happened in like 4 days.
Yeah.
Leases in commercial take like 6 months.
Yes, they do.
So I had a very different mentality going into it. Like you said, I talk about real estate in every conversation I have. My friends, my husband, like my family can't stand it. My dad can't even stand it. But I think once you get in it, it's the only way you're gonna become a top agent. You have to really believe it and see everything that you do in it.
100%.
Yeah.
You gotta love it. Firstly, like,
for sure.
I see some builders not like your dad. Your dad like has
Yeah.
a passion for what he does, right? So you
Yeah.
can tell when you walk into one of his houses, every detail, like he's procured pieces from around the world. It's
Yeah.
like you're going up the staircase, like, where'd you get that from? They'll just say like Italy, some remote, area. But it's like he has this vision and he executes it. Some developers, not knocking, well, I am actually, some developers just literally throw up houses for a financial investment. And you can tell there's no like heart or soul in it, and they don't really care. Like, do you know what I mean? They don't put thought into it. Your dad really is one of those developers who I aspire, because I do build occasionally as well. And I think just with building and obviously selling, you've got to love what you do.
Yeah.
I think it's like, Alexa, you said, right? It's like your hobby becomes your...
I think he
Sure.
put a lot of that in us. And another thing he did was like, oh, no, I'm not using you guys.
Yeah, nice.
I
I'm not
remember
like-
when this was
Yeah.
happening.
And
Wow.
Alexa's like,
He's like-
what in the world?
What? Dad,
She's
you're not
like,
using
"What?"
this.
And
Excuse
I was
me.
like, what am I doing? No, but I think that did motivate
Yeah, it
us
makes
and
us
push
work
us.
harder, honestly. So he's always like, no deals promised. You never know.
Good.
That's a good dad, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
no,
as long as
it
he
really
gives you the
helped
listing
us.
at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm like, what did
Yeah.
you say?
Yeah,
No,
it's like
okay, no.
tough love, but yeah.
And what about for you, Emila? Biggest lesson learned since you started in the industry?
I think for me, just like the back end of like what goes on behind the deal. I think most people think, oh, you show them one house and then you go into escrow and you close in one day. But
Yes.
the back end of it, and just like how much work goes into it, and like how you really need to put your client first, and how just like honesty is so important for you and your client, just making sure you're transparent with them about everything, and just like being there for them, because it's really like they get really emotional, and just like making sure you tell them what's going on, and just, yeah, I think all of that that goes on behind the deal. I had no idea that that's what happened. So.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think these real estate TV shows,
they
partially
make
to
it
blame
so-
over here. I mean, deals don't get done over a 14-second coffee and
A phone call.
or a phone call
Yeah.
where
Okay,
we're
you got a
going.
deal.
Yeah, it would be nice. But when people come to me and they want to start in the real estate industry, the first thing I do is I disqualify them. I tell them all the reasons they don't want to be in this industry, how long it takes, how much shit can go wrong, the problems, the complexities. And if they still are hungry after that, then you're probably right. But I think you made a great point. It's like, this business is not easy. You know, you have to really hustle. You have to be really ethical, transparent if you want to have longevity in this business, but you have to work hard. And if you want to become a top agent, you have to work harder than all of the competition. And I think if you've got that in you, boom, you can go to the top, but it does not come easy. So I couldn't agree with that more. Kris, biggest lesson, surprise for you since you got into the
biggest lesson, I have two, I would say. The first one is don't overthink things too much or overcomplicate things. I think that the biggest payoff in this business comes from being genuine and just being yourself. And when you first get started in the industry, it's easy to like think too much into things.
Yep.
And if anything, people can see that, right? They can see that maybe you're not being yourself or you're just not being genuine. So I'd say that being genuine, first and foremost, and secondly, don't spend your paycheck until the transaction closes.
Even then, try and spend half when it does close. You end up with a tax
Even
bill
then,
otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise you'll be working for the IRS.
It's not fun.
It's not fun at all.
Yeah.
All really good points. And again, right, we're talking to young agents out there that are aspiring to become more successful. And I think all of these tidbits have been hugely, hugely helpful. Okay, so let's move on. What do you guys think, starting off in this crazy real estate industry? It's an election year, 2024, interest rates are high. Like, what advice can you give to someone else coming into the industry? And what's the biggest piece of advice that you would want to share? Starting with you, Emila.
I would say most likely that if you're starting, you haven't seen a lot of homes. So just seeing everything on the market and wherever area you want to perform the most. Or I would just say, if you're in Los Angeles, see everything. Because at the end of the day, how are you supposed to sell something when you've never seen it in person? Because going on Zillow or Redfin or just scrolling on your phone or computer, you're not going to be able to showcase it or sell it to someone without really being there. So just being able to like sell a home with going in person.
Love that.
Yeah.
It's so true. Information is everything in this industry.
Yeah.
We talk about it all the time. If you don't have the information at your fingertips, how are you going to go and provide value to your client? So learn the market inside out, back to front, get familiar and become an expert. Love that.
We
Shana?
did that through door knocking.
Yes, we sure did.
That was our
Yeah.
avenue.
Yeah, that's how we learned. We didn't know a bloody thing until we started doing
We
it.
still didn't know a thing even after that for a while. But
I still don't know.
eventually.
I'm sure if you still do now.
Do you want to hear a funny story? Please tell you the story about the Janice when she was following you around the birds.
Oh, I will. We
Okay,
were.
go on, just do it quickly.
Okay, so I was just starting out in the business and we had one client. She was looking up to 2 million. I mean, I swear to you, I had one client. And so what I'd do is we'd have like 5, 6, 7 showings scheduled. And what I would do is usually before I'd go to each of the houses, so I knew where I was driving from A to B to C to D, so I didn't look like a complete moron. So on this one occasion, I hadn't researched all the houses. She was following me. She was born in LA, this lady, older lady. Anyway, we're going from one house to the other, and my GPS decides to take me the most insane route. Streets I've never even been to today. Like back streets here, there, and everywhere. I am sweating. I remember looking here, like, oh my God, I'm sweating. I've got the AC all the way up. I'm thinking she's never going to want to see me again. We rock up to the house. I'm a hot mess. I get out the car. She looks at me and she goes, my God. She goes, I've lived in LA my whole life. You really do know the back roads. I am very impressed. I was like, I know, I got you. And that was that.
Can you imagine? It must be like a piece of spaghetti.
So funny.
But I fooled her and we never sold her a house.
That's amazing.
And we never sold her a house either.
No, we didn't.
No, we didn't. Okay, moving on. Alexa, for you, biggest piece of advice. It's 2024. What are you telling the new agent coming into the business?
I actually really like what Emila said.
Same.
And it's something that I didn't realize before. But there's such power in what you said in information. And I think going into a showing, going into an open house, and as you go on throughout your years, to be able to say like, oh, blah, 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 bought that person's house, or I saw that deal go down, or this sat on the market for a year before it sold, or that sold. Like to have all that knowledge of so many different homes in LA. Sometimes I think like if I'm doing this, I look at Jade Mills, right? And I think to myself like, she's probably seen the inside of every single person's home in Los Angeles, which is such a crazy concept.
I love Jade.
I love her too.
Yeah.
But I think that that's a really powerful piece. And then I think just being honest. I know I mentioned it before, but I think agents in particular can get a really bad rap about like, the sleazy agent. Like they're just trying to sell you a house. And I think what I've found works best for me and for my clients is I lead completely with honesty and transparency. And for any agent coming into the industry, I think selling is obviously one thing, but there's a difference between selling yourself as a good person and having people trust you for that and want to work with you for that, and then just like selling, bogus.
To make a quick paycheck.
Exactly.
I always do treat my clients like, and it sounds so cheesy, and like I'm not just saying this for the effect, I promise you. It's treat your clients like you would treat your family, like give them that same advice, whether they're a buyer or a seller. Why are you looking at me like that?
I don't know where else to look. You're talking.
He's like this, he's like this.
Like you're full of shit? No,
that's what I do.
Far from it.
Genuinely, just like give them the answer. Don't give them the answer they want to hear. Give them the answer, just the truth.
Give them the
right?
truth,
Give them the best advice. Otherwise, there's going to be a disconnect. It will never work. long term.
Yeah.
There's agents in our industry that are looking to make a quick paycheck, and there's agents in our industry that are looking to create a career.
Yeah.
I think the ones that are looking to make a quick paycheck might make a quick paycheck or 2 or 3 or 4 or 10, but are they going to be around in 15, 20 years, or are they going to burn bridges and be disliked and distrusted? And it just depends. Who do you want to be? Do you want to be an agent that has a career that can make 7 figures, or do you want to be the person that's trying to live paycheck to paycheck, that's dishonest, that ends up losing their license because they were an asshole? Kris, what about you? Best piece of advice to a
I
young
would
agent?
say relationships and pipeline. Relationships, both with agents, I think is incredibly important. So like just going to people's open houses, meeting people, just being a good, genuine person. Secondly, the same for clients, right? Like potential clients, like just focus on building relationships. And then pipeline, you got to build the pipeline. The pipeline that is really everything and anything I focus on. If I just focus all day, every day on building my pipeline, because the bigger your pipeline is, the bigger your business is going to be.
It's really
And if
quite
you don't have a
simple.
spreadsheet or a CRM or something where you're tracking every single person you've met, every single house you've been in, every single potential lead listing, then like that's something you should be doing ASAP, because
1,000,000%.
that's money right there.
Also, it's like everyone looks at this business like, because of the TV shows, it's so glamorous. It's like, do you know what I mean? Like making a fortune, selling these beautiful houses, but it takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
Right. So for us, and I know you touched on this, it's like when we first went into it, we were 2 Brits. We didn't know where the f we were going, right? We didn't know our way around. We really discovered that. But it was like, we were willing to work harder than anyone else. We were going to be honest and ethical, stay in our lane. And literally the best part is we actually owe everything to the Mauricios, the Kurt Rappaports, right? The Jade Mills, the Drew Fentons. The truth is that I always thought if they can do it, then the only reason we can't do it is if we're either not working hard enough, we give up, or we're doing something wrong, which is fine. You can make mistakes, but you can learn from the mistakes. So that goes up to not giving up. So I genuinely believe, I look at you 4 now and us as well. And it's like, you made a decision. We're not reinventing the wheel. There are very successful agents in this business. That's literally all I needed to know, or we needed to know when we first started out. And then the rest is history. We're not Elon Musk. He's f***ing brilliant, by the way. Like, he can create stuff, but with selling houses. Anyway, that's my take.
No.
I have something to add.
Yeah,
I think one thing when starting out, it's super, super important, kind of like you with James and David, is finding a mentor in the business who's successful. Because besides, I do think seeing everything on the market, going to Caravan, meeting the agents, but like for us, we were lucky to have Rainey and Brandon. And I think honestly, I told James, I would listen to
Yeah, Shana
Rising
was
the
obsessed
Ranks.
with you.
I was
Hey.
obsessed with the
I listened to it too.
Hey.
I
But,
told you.
by the way, I knew you were door knockers because that was motivating to me. And
She would send
I
it
would
to
be
me
like,
every
we
week,
have
being
to
like, "Watch
go
this
door
right now."
knock
Yes.
right now. But like, I think talking and being around people who are successful and learning what they do, it's really the only
100%,
way, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, I love
100%.
that.
And everyone talks about door knocking, but it takes such consistently. Every week I'm telling someone, you got to go out and door knock, pound
Guys,
the
I'm
pavements.
a horrible door knocker.
Are you? I can imagine you being quite good at door knocking.
Oh my
But
God.
you
They're
know
like,
what? That's okay.
how old are you?
That's
No.
okay.
Are you
But I think
alone?
that's
No.
okay. And I don't think just because door knocking worked for us that it needs to work for everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think as an agent in any business, actually, you have to find what speaks to you, what feels organic to you. And then you have to become a master of the craft in that specific thing. But consistency is the key. You can't go door knocking once a week.
Yeah.
I think with anything, consistency
Exactly.
is the
Or
key.
once a
Yeah.
month and expect to have results. You've got to do it over and over and over again. So if it's not door knocking, what is it? And then do it every day, day in and day out. And to Kris's point, build your pipeline. The bigger the pipeline, the more mud you throw at the wall.
Open houses.
Something has to stick. If it's open houses, make sure you know that house inside out, back to front, 2 houses that have sold, 2 that are coming up, 2 that sold off market. Like, provide value. It's information, it's value, it's pipeline, it's trust. It's all the things we've spoken about today. To get into the more specifics now, your first 10 listings, or 5 listings, or your first listing, or whatever it might be. Was there a tactic that worked for you, Alexa? Is there a tactic that didn't work? What do you do when you're out there trying to gain business that speaks organically to you?
I think, David, you said it, making mistakes. I think the tactic that honestly accidentally works the best is making a lot of mistakes. I think my first few listings, I had no idea what I was doing, but on the deal that you don't remember.
Who bought this deal? Please remind me.
Baller, James.
Franklin
Diva.
Canyon.
Bloody
She was
baller.
an English girl. It was a friend of mine.
Okay, thank you.
By the way, Alexa, James doesn't remember any deal below 20 million these days.
That's
where he's gone with his time.
It was
yeah.
I know, Franklin Canyon. And you said
Yes.
Franklin Canyon, I would have remembered.
Isn't that what I said?
You said Franklin.
Oh.
But it's all good.
Okay.
Of course I
Franklin
remember. And you were a
Canyon.
rock star even back then when
Thank
you
you.
just started. Carry
But
on.
I think that is...
And we were in multiples and she
Is that
won
the one
it.
with the big
Wow.
flat yard?
Yeah,
Yes.
it was
Oh,
a
that's
double
an
lot.
epic house. That
Yes.
was a good
So
house.
was it
Mark
That was your
Levine's
first sale.
Who?
Mark Levine.
No.
Which one was it?
2 over.
Excellent.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. Carry on. Mistakes.
But that was in the height of COVID. That was one of my first deals. I had left Josh at this point. So this was one of my first deals on my own.
Josh who?
Flag.
You worked with him? I know you worked
Where
with
have you been?
No, I know. I know you walked the flats with him, but did you actually work
He
with
was
him?
my mentor for like my first 6 months.
God help you. No, I love Flag. I'm impressed. Okay.
Yes.
Work.
But I remember that deal. I was up against 8 other offers.
Yep.
And I had my client write a letter,
Yeah.
which is something I always have my clients do. It's I think certain agents don't do that. And then I remember you called me right after you accepted it and you were like, what the fuck? How did you get this done? I just got 3 offers that were so much higher than your offer, but somehow you just
Wow.
got in a really good time.
Nice.
But I
remember it.
think the craziest thing for me in that was I had no idea what I was doing. And there was
Guess what? Neither did I.
Did?
And there was not one moment where I thought to myself, like, I'm better than anyone in this room and I know what I'm doing. I remember I walked into that deal with you and I said to you, like, I'm very green and I have no idea what I'm doing. And I'm just going based off of what I feel is right and what my mentors in the past have told me, whether it was Josh or my family, my dad or whoever it was. And so I think admitting, especially when you're new, admitting that you're new and admitting that you're green and that you're young and eager to learn is always the best because it makes you vulnerable. And I think it allows people to connect with you better and for you to learn more.
Very powerful. And success is failure turned inside out.
Yes, it is.
It is.
I love that saying.
So do I.
I said it so much.
And every time he says it, I'm like, I'm going to use that. And then I forget it.
And then
I'm
I use it again.
And then it's like, I get it wrong. Okay, Shana, to you. 10 listings, 5 listings, 1 listing. Like, what advice do you give to the newer agent coming into this biz?
Well, there was a guy who was our family friend. He's an agent out in Agora Hills, Calabasas. He brought me he reached out to me and was like, there's a chance we could get like a $30 million listing. I was in the industry for 3 months at the time. And I was like, I'll do anything. And he's like, yeah, he needs a top brokerage. So I brought Brandon to the listing appointment and me. Like I said, I think it's really good to go and work with people who have that experience to get those bigger listings. I think that's
we did
important.
it with Mauricio the whole time.
Yeah, and I think that's what helped. And we went, and the client was a big football player, and he looked at me like, literally, who are you? And I was like, no. I was like, trust me, like, you'll be so happy, because his personality and Brandon, who has such a specific personality, were polar opposites. I was like, I'll be there. I'll do everything. And I lived far from Calabasas. I was driving there nonstop every day. I was feeding the fish. I was picking up the
housekeeper.
Dog. Yeah, I was doing everything in this house. But I think it showed, and we sold it. And I think that's really important. And then one more that was on the buy side. Rainey gave me one lead ever, and it was her hairdresser, the sweetest lady. And she told me, hey, I'm looking for a $580,000 single family home on the west side. Me being so naive right when I started,
Wow.
I was like, I got this. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'll find you it. And I found one home like on Beverly Glen that was an actual shack. And I was like, oh God, like this is going to be impossible.
Mhm.
And I don't think Rainey was like just trying to help me, you know? And I ended up trying to ask them to pivot to Van Nuys. And we went to this like incredible home, like 5 bedrooms, everything, great street. And we found her home, and she
Nice
bought it.
move.
And I think that happened in a month. And I think that was like kind of seeing that and watching it pivot, and them listening to me was like really cool and fulfilling, and they're so happy, and they're one of my favorite people now.
I
awesome.
love
Yeah.
that.
Wow.
I love that. And before you know it, she's going to sell a shampoo company for $100 million, and you're going to be selling her a $20 million house,
They're the best.
and it will all
True.
start there. Okay. Anything that you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think, hers were amazing. And I watched her go through that, and I was like, just like, she's 4 years older than me. So just watching Shana over the past like 4 years and just seeing her grow and like honestly teaching me. Like Rainey is my mentor along with Shana. So just having both of them has been really helpful. But
that's nice.
That was
But-
very nice. You got that on camera. So we're arguing
Emila,
next.
remember that. Yeah.
But one of my first experiences was my first listing. It was in Beverlywood, and it was an open house, and I remember Rainey was like, just anyone you meet, just try to get their phone number. And I was like, okay. So then
Stalking.
Hi, can I have your number?
so then there's this one guy that walked in, and he had 3 kids, and he was just like, oh yeah, I have an agent. And I was like, okay, no worries. Well, if you ever need anything, like, here's my phone number. And then he called me once and was like, oh, I'm looking for anything off market in this area. And I was like, oh, okay. And I had no clients at that point. So I was like, I might as well just like call everyone.
Yes.
And then I just called every agent that I knew. And there was only like 5 people that I knew at that point. And then it was just like through like referrals. So someone else told me about someone else. And then I found him an off market, and he was looking for 2 years. So that was 2 years later.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
That's
then
awesome.
and then I've sold him like 2 other homes since then. So
That's
Wow.
awesome
Amazing.
for
Yeah.
you and terrible for the agent that he had. But great for you. Good job.
Yeah.
And sticking with it and being consistent.
yeah,
and
it's all about consistency and just proving yourself.
and sometimes
the
it's
value
like
you bring.
the less you know, the better.
Yeah.
Right?
I
Once
think
you know
that's
too much.
really important.
Yeah.
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
What about for you, Kris? I see you
Mine-
listing. You're like a listing machine now. Like, what
Yeah.
what advice?
Mine was actually similar story to that. So I think I was an assistant for like a year-ish. And then I was battling with these two being like, I'm ready. And they were like, I don't know, I'm not sure. And then they called me and were like, you're good. We're going to give you a shot. So I was like, right, I don't fucking know anyone. So I was like, what should I do? I was like, I just literally picked up my phone. I called everyone I've ever met during the time being an assistant at an open house. And I must have called like 100 people. And then this one girl answered, and she said, yeah, I've been looking for like a year or so and my agent can't find me anything. She was up to like 1.5. I said, look, give me 2 weeks to find you something off market. If I find you something off market, you let me represent you. And she was like, okay, deal. And then I literally found her something a week later, and it was 2 weeks, all cash, closed.
Wow. Oh my God.
And I was like, this is easy. I was like, I'm making millions. And I didn't close the deal for like 3 months after that. But so yeah, similar situation to that. And then just open houses, meet buyers. And then, I wasn't from here, so I didn't know anyone. So the easiest thing to do was to bring someone off market, and everyone loves something that no one else has access to. And that's really how I grew my business.
I love it. And that goes back to what we touched on very quickly earlier, is the relationship you have with other agents, right?
Super important.
Dave and I were taught very early on that actually the relationship with other agents is even more important than the relationship you have with your own client, because clients come and go, whereas agents stay. And when you have that buyer and you need those pockets, guess what? If you have good relationships with other agents, they're going to help you with pockets, etc. And they're also going to help you when you're in a multiple counter situation. So it comes down to your reputation, your level of trust, not just with the client, but with other agents as well. I could keep talking for probably 2-3 hours with the four of you guys. I've enjoyed this so much. We are coming up to the end of this particular segment. I want to end it with any parting wisdom that you'd like to share with our audience, or just anybody starting out. And we'll start with you, Alexa, and just go around.
We always start with me. Can we start with Shana?
Shana, any parting wisdom or anything you'd like to start with the agent starting out?
Like I said, find the mentor, check everything on the market. I think find a specific area that you love. If you're not from LA or haven't been living there, find an area, pick that area, stick with it, learn everything, meet all the agents, and you're going to soon start finding the off markets. Like really, like you said, call every agent in that area asking for off markets. And then when you're out, like just out and about, try to go to a restaurant around that area and go there all the time and start just meeting people and bring up talking about homes. I mean, she goes out more than anyone I freaking
She goes
know.
out more than club promoters.
I don't understand. No. But I'm telling you, I admire it because
she's amazing.
She hustles, and think about all the people you meet, just like who are your friends who already have that trust in you. I think that's super important. I mean, I need to go out more, I think, but
nothing makes me happier than bumping into Alexa.
She's the best.
Honestly, or an event. I'm almost like I'm going to see Alexa tonight. Jokes aside, I love it because she's got a ray of sunshine about her. So
and by the way, we were doing a deal together, James. You were also on the deal, and she was also on the deal. But it was like 8:30 p.m. and he texted me like, "Everything good?" And I was like, "No." And I called him, and he answered. I swear he was in the Sahara tent at Coachella. He's like, "Sorry, I'm at Coachella." And he like put me on a text with an attorney and this and that, and got it done at like 10 p.m.
Wow.
So
that's what we do.
You gotta always be there also.
Yep. And likewise. Thank you. Emila.
I would say just like really give it your all. And at the end of the day, it's about how much you put into it. So just really proving yourself and then to others how much value you bring, which I think is really important as an agent, especially a young agent, because at the end of the day, they're going to work with the person that either brings them the deal or can negotiate for them. So just showing that you're able to do it, I think that's the most important.
100% agreed. Kris?
I would say patience. I was like, you got to have patience. It's a business that doesn't happen overnight. And if you're just getting started, you need to go into it on the understanding that it might take you a year to do your first deal. And that's normal. So if you're getting in the business to make a quick buck, you're in the wrong business. So as long as you have patience and you're consistent, and you're a good person, like David said, it's a proven
They're going to say
industry.
like David.
Yeah.
Just stop right there.
You're not a good person.
All right.
I'm joking. I forgot where I was going with this now.
Sorry.
That was so good.
Patience and consistency and be a good person. It's a proven industry, and it's impossible to not be successful as long as you do those three things. In my opinion.
Yeah,
I agree.
100%.
I think everything. This is why I wanted to wait, because I wanted to hear what they had to say. Because I
You
agree.
just want to say everything they said.
I do think everything they said
Of
is
course.
amazing. I think on top of that, just have fun.
Yeah.
I know I like to have fun, but I think that have fun while you're doing your deals. Have fun with your clients. Have fun with the other agents.
Yeah.
Your relationships with your clients and networking is obviously very important, but it's exactly what you said. Relationships with other agents.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're doing the deal with the other agent. You're not talking to their client. They're not talking to your client. It's your escrow is, if we're lucky, 30 days.
Yeah.
But these days they can go till 9 months. And so you are working. This is a colleague. Like
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
is
so
someone
true.
you're working with for a long
What's so funny?
time. Who do you want to work
We're in
with?
a long
100%.
So I think just have fun with
yes,
it.
you are.
Have fun.
You.
I love that.
Well,
by
yeah.
the way. That is
That's
Yeah.
very good. That's very
true.
good advice.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
money
that's
at stake.
The
and I
deal
think
begins
it's-
once you go into escrow. I love the fact that you said the colleague thing because it's so true. It's like
Yeah.
whenever I do a deal with like Jade or do a deal with Marissa or whoever it is, right? You really speak to them like multiple times a day
Yeah.
for a very long period of time. And then the deal's closed and,
And
it's
then
just like,
You lose a
Yeah.
friend.
it's like maybe they didn't like me really. They were like, it goes like to darling, to buddy. Do you know what I mean? And then it's just silence.
So who are you?
But you're not competitors, right?
But
You're
you
working
become-
together.
Right.
But
Yeah,
you
okay.
become colleagues. That's such a good way to look at it. That was good. I like that.
Any parting wisdom from you, Mr. Parnes?
No, I'm joking. I'm joking. No, honestly, I think what you guys have all achieved in a relatively short period of time is so commendable. It's so good to see it. It's so refreshing, like the good energy. And I think it just goes back to that fact. It's like, listen, if they can do it, you can do it too. And the only reason you won't do it is if you give up, if you're dishonest, or if you're not consistent. Those three things. It's a proven industry.
Yeah.
Give it everything you got. You know, fall over, make mistakes, and learn from those mistakes. And I think genuinely you guys are all evidence of that, proof of that. And it's been really inspiring sitting with you guys.
Amen
Yeah.
to that. This has been awesome. And I think that covers it for today's segment. I want to thank you all massively for joining us.
Thank you.
Hope you've all enjoyed this Under 30 Roundtable. Stay tuned for more episodes of Rise Above the Ranks presented by Estate Media. And be sure to like this episode, subscribe, and join the conversation in the comments. Who knows, maybe you'll be our next guest. Until then, thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next segment. Thank you.